Hello everyone, welcome back to All the Day. We have returned after a little bit of a hiatus. It's the summertime, it gets busy. What do you want from us? So, Cheston, how have you been lately?
Sick.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's not... Nobody around here has slept in 2 or 3 days, which is delightful. Except for the baby, who's not sick, which is inexplicable. He's never been sick in his entire life. And
You jinxed it now, he's about to be sick.
yeah, well... he's...
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't. Do you think this Walmart desk is real wood?
do you think I should get rid of this lead paint? I don't know. It's pretty cool.
I think this is probably real wood.
Particle board counts.
Okay, alright.
Well, you're a Nintendo fan, so
Oh
cardboard
god, it's
definitely
cardboard.
counts.
Yeah, it's a Labo desk.
Setzer, how about you? How you doing?
Doing fine. Had a
Yeah.
lot of time to play video games these past couple weeks, actually.
Same here. Lots of jumping around. I had trouble finding a main game for a while, but I found a few things.
God, is that contagious? Me too. I have just been bouncing around back and forth. Ever since I finished the first Mass Effect, I've just been like a, I don't know, dog without a leash.
Well, I laid down and I was like, I need to find something to play, and then nothing really sounded good, so I just kept trying things. Like at one point, I was like, all right, let's play XCOM 2. And I played 2 levels of it, and I was like, I think I've had enough of XCOM 2. Then I played StarCraft 2, and I got to where they start saying all right, you gotta bust your troops around via airship, otherwise you can't storm bases. And I was like, you didn't tell me about that, and I've spent 10 minutes doing this, so I guess I'm done with this game now. And so it's just been jumping around ever since I beat Nocturne. So I landed on things, but I guess since I'm already talking, I'll get going with it. I finally gave Disco Elysium another chance, and I finished it, and I really enjoyed it. It ended up being a really solid game. I really enjoy the writing. It's very clever. It's funny at times. It's really dark at times. It's mood whiplash. I recommend people give it a try at some point.
Continues the proud Derek tradition of indie darling that everybody loves, that Derek hates initially because he forces himself to play it. And then 2 years later is like, God, have you guys heard of Disco Elysium? That's really good.
To be fair, I was the first one that was, have you heard of this, back in 2019, because everyone was talking about it.
Yes.
But I decided to replay it because, Setzer was talking about how it was actually pretty well written, and it's even-handed about how it makes fun of all politics, and, he's right. It is pretty even-handed about it. I went down the commie route, and it's the whole time it's you're going to be the one that figures out communism, brother. I'm like, oh, okay.
All right.
I get it. So,
I'll try.
I get it. That's pretty funny. On top of being funny, it can be deadly serious at times. You have to, confront this woman about, being assaulted, and it's generally unnerving. You're like, how am I going to approach this? So, it's very well done.
Yeah, it handles these serious subjects pretty well for a game.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty well for a game that can be extremely silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are some dialogue options that are just really zany, so it's just a kind of mood whiplash to see it go from deadly serious to just goofy. I'm kind of split about how this game concludes, because I think it's I don't know, I feel like it's fairly grounded in reality a lot of the time, and then at the end I feel like it loses that completely. Even though this is a strange world in places, they have something called the Pale, which is established. But I feel like this is a fairly grounded game, and the ending is not at all. So it's kind of weird. I'll wait till you beat it so we can chat about it.
Sounds good. I'm thinking that's number 3 on my list right now, so...
All I will say is that I got into a situation where I got Kim shot He lives.
Uh-oh.
He lives, but he got shot. At the end of the game, they replace him, and they replace him with Kuno.
No shit.
Yeah, so Kuno is like going around like making comments to you as you're like going, and it's so wacky. I couldn't get over it. And like I really miss Kim for these serious conversations because you're like confronting like the killer, and Kuno's like, "Yeah, you killed him, didn't you?" Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, "Okay." He's like calling you a pig the whole time. It's just crazy.
Generally speaking, what'd you think of the voice acting?
I think it was really good.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I was surprised.
Yeah, I went in with like low expectations, but everyone is like really well acted. There's again for a zany game, people do their lines really well. People that are supposed to be cheesy are cheesy. People that are supposed to be like grounded are. It's well extremely well done.
Yeah, yeah.
The characters are all really solid. Like I ended up enjoying the main character, and Kim is as good as advertised. So any complaints I had about the game are pretty much thrown out. I think they do a good job overall.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to beat it.
I really love all the skill checks, by the way. Like, Cheston, I know you don't know a lot about this game, but like when you're having conversations and whatnot, they'll like check your stats, and if your stats are a certain point, like sometimes you'll get like a little bit of extra information.
I know what a skill check is.
Yes, but I'm explaining it. Like they do it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's constant.
For instance, like if you're really empathetic, sometimes during a conversation you'll notice something about like their facial expression or something. It changes drastically based on your character build to the point where I feel like a replay of this game would be severely different depending on how you approach it. Like I feel like it has a lot of replay value in that way. So
Like Outer Worlds taken to the nth degree.
a lot more so, I would say.
Right.
And a lot better written. No offense to Outer Worlds.
No, I would absolutely agree. I mean, different tones, but
Yes, but that was probably the main thing I played. I am playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot again right now, which is fun, but I mean I don't really have much to say about it.
is there like DLC?
There
that
is.
brought you
That
into
is
this?
why.
Okay.
Yes. It was on the Steam sale, and it had like the deluxe edition with all the DLC for $30, and so I was like, well, I already have it on Xbox, but I only have to pay $5 more, and I can play it on my PC while I do other stuff. So why not?
Is it the Saiyaman Saga? Is that what's downloadable?
No, they do the history of Trunks, the alternate Trunks future.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
I agree, it is cool. It is the only time Gohan has ever been cool. So
Okay. Well, that's
it's debatable.
but whatever.
It's the only time he's been useful, I should say.
Well, okay. I mean, he did kill Cell.
He killed his own dad in the process because he was like got cocky, but whatever.
Ah, come on. Goku dies all the time.
Come on,
That doesn't
bro.
matter.
Next week it should be a little easier to find things to do. I got the Fire Emblem DLC that was on sale, so I want to play that here soon. And Disgaea 6 comes out on Tuesday, so I don't know if I'll ever talk about it on here, but I'll certainly be playing it.
Oh, the bedtime report.
The bedtime report, the sleepy time Derek report. I mean, Hyrule Warriors is currently occupying that slot, so the playtime
As
on that
always.
baby's been shooting up. You can only say so much about a Muso. You go around and you slash your sword and you kill a lot of people. I guess that's all I really had to talk about for what I've been playing, since I don't have any desire to go into depth about StarCraft 2 or XCOM 2. So, Setzer, what about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I played a lot of demos in the Steam Next Fest.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that during the Future Games presentation from E3. So, how were those things?
There were some standouts. There were some games that I just couldn't even play because the PC controls are so bad. Like, I was really shocked by some of these games where it's like, okay, movements on the arrow keys, camera control is WASD for a platformer.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Jump is on the T key for you there.
That's a
So if
weird
you want
one.
to go ahead and spend 20 minutes rebinding keys, which I didn't want to do, so I just quit the game.
No, I hate rebinding keys.
Yeah, it's so tedious.
Yeah.
But some of the standouts, Sable, beautiful looking game. Playing it is so slow.
Oh, no.
It's a very slow game. It's kind of like Journey, but even slower. and the PC controls are very clunky. Like, just moving the mouse to move your camera just feels like crap in this game. And I don't know what it is. And they're like, if you want to change tabs in the menu, press the bracket key. Move your hand and press the bracket key. I can't use Q and E for that. I can't use A and D.
Oh, man, that sounds rough. Ill thought out.
Dread Templar, another fine boomer shooter that, mixes it up a little with a dash ability and some other stuff. That's looking really cool. White Hell, another boomer shooter. It's kind of a GoldenEye type game. That's what it reminds me of, at least. GoldenEye and Redneck Rampage set in Finland.
Wow, quite a combo.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Mecha Jammer. I played this. I could not figure out how to reload my gun. It's a CRPG, kind of like the old Fallout games. You've got a gun in your inventory, you've got ammo in your inventory, and there's a reload button. You press the reload button and your character just shrugs and says, "Oh, oh." That was an Alt F4 for me.
That kind of reminds me, I saw people talking about playing, I think it was Dusk, and they were complaining about like pressing R to reload doesn't reload it, and it just flips the gun.
Yeah, because you don't need to reload in that game at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, speaking of shooters, I played Severed Steel, and I was really impressed by the gameplay footage of this game, so I was like, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. And I played it, and the controls are ass. I could not, I don't know, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Maybe I'm just not smart enough for this big brain shooter game, but...
These indies are just hitting you with these crappy controls.
Yeah.
Do they have, maybe controller controls?
I don't know. I would assume that's what they're targeting. If this is their, primary control scheme, then I'd be very, very concerned.
Well, Real Yakuza play with a gamepad.
I got that
Radio
reference.
Viscera?
Yeah?
This was a really cool little game. It's kind of like a top-down shooter game, kind of like Robotron or something, but very physics-based. So I'm keeping an eye on that one, Radio Viscera. It's very British, though. The humor is very, matter-of-factly say something strange and then linger on that.
A lot of men in cross-dressing. The British standard.
The old
Lots of
standby.
YouTube channels. Lots of retro game content about systems nobody liked.
Saying Chocobo.
Road 96. I think it's an interesting concept. Graphically, it looks pretty cool. This is the kind of game that's going to live or die by how much variety it gives you. So we'll see what the full game is looking like. But it's a little... How should I put this? A little preachy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's a turn off for me.
The plot of the game is it's 1996 and a fascist has been elected president of the United States and he's made it illegal to cross the border into Mexico instead of the other way around.
1996. How dare they talk about Bill Clinton this way? Oh my God.
I know.
There's only one border that Bill Clinton wants you to travel south of.
Whoa. Yeah, that seems like it'd be a little on the nose.
Yeah. So you play an American teenager trying to escape into Mexico. And, so it's kind of like... Some of it is very eye-rolly.
It sounds kind of what I had assumed Disco Elysium was, where it's just very hey, here's the right politics, buddy.
It all sounds very on the nose without playing it.
Yeah, it's very oh boy, it's one of those games that's divided into sections. Okay, in this section you play with this character and you get to know them, and then there's another section and it's kind of like a roguelike in that respect, right?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'm not one of those you can't put politics in the games people, but when it's there, I want it to be well thought out and not just telling you what to think like a Marvel movie does. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of, I don't know, shallow.
Yeah. Well, the second section is you get enslaved by a redneck gas station owner and the police come and raid the place looking for another American teenager who's trying to cross the border. And it's like, it's so over the top. Everybody's got a southern accent, and they're, like, just aching to beat someone.
Oh man, they're.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
I see. They get their. Okay, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Terra Nil. This is kind of like a puzzle game. I think this is by Devolver, actually, getting published by Devolver.
They make good games.
Yeah.
Publish them, I should say.
It's a grid-based map of like a barren wasteland, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to put little machines down on this grid, and they okay, this machine purifies this much land, this many tiles in these directions, right? Then you put another machine down and it waters the tiles in these, this specific arrangement, right? And you have to basically repopulate this barren wasteland with animals and plants and all that. It's actually very fun. I was very impressed with this game.
Kind of like a terraforming sort of sounds like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's
whole
like the last
idea
part of
is,
Spore.
I wouldn't even dare liken this game to that flop, but it's more of a puzzle game where you're preparing these wild spaces so that humanity won't ruin them again.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's kind of the crux of it. So it's very interesting. I really liked this.
Well, that sounds all right. I can get behind that.
And then outside of the official Next Fest, I also tried Galahad 3093, which is a first-person mecha game.
I could have guessed by the title.
Yeah. It's kind of like Titanfall, but Titans only.
Okay, yeah,
And,
okay. So better Titanfall.
But the gameplay is quite different.
Yeah.
It's kind of got this objective-based base capturing map, right? Where you have to take out the enemy base generator and blah blah blah. So I download this game, right? And I click play, and it puts me in the mech customization screen, and you select your pilot for their special abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just taking my time reading the options, and all of a sudden I hear someone call out my Steam username and say, "Hey, are you gonna play?" And I'm like, "What? What the hell?" And I realized I was in a match. When you start the game and you click play, it doesn't take you to choose your character. It puts you in the match in the lobby, and people are playing the game.
Oh shit.
And you're holding it up for everyone else.
Oh wow.
And it doesn't give you any explanation of what's going on. So I start playing, and I'm just running around, and trying to figure out how does this even work? What's this game mode, right? What's the objective? And this guy with a gold star banner over his nameplate instantly obliterates me, and I have no clue what the hell to do. It's kind of like Overwatch, where there's zany characters that are just electrified, right?
Your DreamWorks characters.
Yeah. And when he kills me, his little pilot character, his little cartoon guy, says a quip at me.
Oh boy.
And it's his character says, "Is this your first time in a mech, or were you just born without reflexes?" And it's yeah, actually, it
this
is
my first time. You fucking bitch.
And what got me about it was it's so loud. When the character talks, it's 3 times as loud as the rest of the game. So it's screaming over my speakers.
It's really grating sounding.
Yeah, the game is very, very rough. I'm surprised they put out a beta in such a rough state, but it is, it's got potential. I'll say that. If they steer, I could see this becoming a really fun game, but right now the controls are just kind of rough, and the animations are very rough.
I gotta get that early access money.
But I've also been playing some other mech games. I played some more MechWarrior 5. This is kind of our E3 episode, so I'll just say it here. I was shocked that this game was headlining the PC Games show. this game is like not prime time ready. It's like technically solid, but the game design is pretty shallower than I would expect for that kind of, headline PR shilling game, right?
It was like every 5 minutes, like, by the way, this show is brought to you by Mech Warrior 5. And I'm like,
Yeah,
holy
yeah.
shit.
I was like, how do these guys, like, if this is the kind of game they're putting out, how do these guys have the money to shill like this?
The amount of ads you got for that game during that show, it was like, you'd expect that out of like a Far Cry or some like huge game.
Like, this is an indie game, like, borderline early access, because there's just not a lot of variety in this game, which, was really shocking to me, because they're always talking up, like, oh, there's 100 different mechs to pilot or whatever, but they almost all, like, work the same. And it's one of those games where you have, like, AI squad mates, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can barely tell them what to do. It's like you can't tell them, it's an objective-based, mission-based game, right? And so it'd be really useful to tell your allies, like, okay, you guys flank, go over here, and we're going to flank them or something.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. And I was watching a video where this guy interviews one of the devs, and he's like, yeah, being able to tell your allies where to go on the map probably will never happen.
Oof.
And it's like, this is getting, front and center exposure at E3.
Well, yeah, if you're having like a squad, like an AI squad game, you better be able to tell them where to go at the bare minimum.
I also played BattleTech, which is same franchise, different developer, and it's more of a turn-based tactics game, kind of like XCOM. And this game ranges from really fun to ball-bustingly boring. Where
Quite
it's
the
like,
range.
yeah, like 2-3 turns in a row, nobody's mech will hit anybody else's, nothing will happen, just kind of running around in circles trying to get a hit. If you do get a hit, it's like, okay, you did 4 damage. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but I wish there was a strategy game, a tactics game, where you have like actual, decisive plays, as opposed to like, okay, you have an 80% chance of doing 3 damage, right?
It's a little frustrating. Like I don't enjoy that. Like you're gonna hit 95% of the time, but that 5%, oof, it makes it kind of it adds a luck base to it, which shouldn't be there.
Yeah, like imagine if in chess it was like, okay, you have a 65% chance of taking this piece when you move on that square or something.
I don't think it's a good mechanic.
Yeah.
I like FF Tactics, but they do have occasional like percentage stuff, and that's always the worst. So so I'm with you on that.
That's also why I don't like XCOM 2.
yeah, that's what I gathered when I'm playing. Like I don't like this missing stuff.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I played these past 3-4 weeks.
You played a whole heap of stuff.
I did.
Did you try Tunic?
No, I didn't realize there was a demo out.
Yeah, it was part of the Summer Games Fest.
Oh, really?
Is it on PC, the demo?
Well, it's probably down now. They did it. It was one of those timed, like they did it a few months ago actually. I think it was only like a week, and I was able to hop in there for a little bit. And I mean, I don't usually play demos very long, especially if it's a game that I can tell that I'm going to like. So I kind of got in for a very short amount of time and then got out. It was very much what it looked like. It was very much Zelda with a little bit of Dark Souls peppered on top with a really cute art style. So a lot like Dark Souls. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I don't have much to say about it because I stopped playing it after like 20 minutes because I said, yep, I'll play this when it's out. Whenever that is. I've been waiting 5 years. I can wait another 5, I guess, if I have to.
I hope not.
It seems imminent. They've been out showing it a lot this year.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's one of those games, like the new Hollow Knight's becoming, where it'll be here one of these days when it's done. It's done. All right, well, Cheston, why don't you close us out here? Yeah, I'll do a quickie. I'll kind of go in order of shortest to longest. So shortest,
My dear.
But
Well, I've surely proved that size doesn't actually matter, unfortunately. So, I played Overwatch because they enabled crossplay, and I thought, I wonder if it's going to help the queue times.
Did
It
it?
did not that much. It was still too long for me. It was because they still have roll queue, which I imagine will never go away now. And I haven't played in probably 2 years, so I was like, well, I don't want to play healer because I'm decent at healing, but I think it's kind of boring. And I don't want to play tank because I haven't played in 2 years, and I don't want a bunch of people yelling at me. So I did the DPS queue, which said it was about 7 minutes. And it was pretty accurate. It was about 7 minutes. Did a fun little match. Got to play with a character that was added since I last played, and I had a decent time. But then right after that, I don't know, probably 10, 12-minute match, I was right back to a 7-minute wait time, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not playing this. Because that's just too much.
Well, I'm surprised you even had fun because to me it feels like crossplay would be brutal for console
Well, it's
players.
not. So the way that the crossplay works is that the only way that console players will crossplay with PC, I think the only way for now is that you're in a group with a PC player. Like our brother plays on PC, so if I were to say, "Hey, let's play Overwatch," then we would be in the PC queue, which I imagine would be shorter. For this, I'm pretty sure it even specified for me that it was just console crossplay.
Okay.
So
Well, that's
just
good
across PS4 and Switch,
because you would
probably.
get blown out.
Oh yeah, I'm terrible, and
Well, not just that; it's the
yeah.
keyboard and mouse thing.
I had fun, but it's just hard for me to justify any game where if I'm on there for 45 minutes, I might have 20 minutes of action. Like that's for a multiplayer only game, to me that's not acceptable. I will say though, the
yeah,
loot boxes in that game, man, that game has turned into a casino because you just walk in and it's like
Turned
blinking
into.
lights everywhere. Well, it's worse than it was because it was. I mean, at launch it was pretty bare bones. Now the menu, there's all these things like special deals, special box. You know, I got a gold box because I don't remember what the occasion was, but it's this shimmering gold box, and man, the model for that box was beautiful. It was resplendent, and when it opened, like it was it was it was triumphant when it opened, and I was like, oh man, I was like, this is dangerous. This
Better
is
open
why.
more boxes.
Yeah, well, I had two others left over from the last time I played, and I opened those, and I got a skin that I don't want to use because I don't play as the character that skin is for, and I got some currency, which I guess I could finally buy that McCree skin I wanted 4 years ago, but if I'm going to have to wait 7 minutes to play and have a good time, I'm probably not going to play much more Overwatch, but, you know, seems like crossplay works, so good for them, I guess.
did you pay your dues to the CCP?
Yeah, I did.
Well, yeah, it was weird when I logged into StarCraft 2. They made me sign an oath of loyalty to Xi Jinping. I was a little confused, but I did it.
Yeah, I have no pride. I'll buy Diablo 2 and swear my oath again. I know. I am what I am.
I act like I have all these virtues, but if they released something I actually wanted to play, I probably would too. But luckily, they don't really do that
Finally,
anymore.
Rock and Roll Racing 2. I've been waiting forever.
They don't really do that anymore, so I think I'm safe.
Yeah, you are not a big fan of any of their stuff except for StarCraft, and that's pretty much lapsed at this point.
Yes, I enjoyed playing StarCraft 1. That
Yeah.
was where it went. So
It was fun in high school, right?
it was.
Yeah, it's hard to go back to
On a
that.
56K modem, there's not much better.
Yeah. So the other game I played, I started a month ago, and then it ended up being really timely. I had started Metroid Zero Mission. This game has been on my backlog for literally its entire lifespan. I have always said, I'm going to play that game. But the time was never right. It didn't matter if it was, back when it came out on the Game Boy, or when I had a DS, which could play Game Boy games, or when I had a Wii U where I could emulate it on the Wii U through Virtual Console. It did not matter. I just always found a reason not to play it. But I finally said, you know what, dang it, I'm going to play it. This was before Metroid Dread even. And I am glad that I finally did. It is a fantastic little slice of Metroid. Of the ones I've played, it's probably my second favorite. I do think it's a real shame that the only way to play it legally is to have a Wii U or a Game Boy Advance, because it's a really great starter Metroid, because it does give you a little more guidance than Super Metroid, because I think Super Metroid can be kind of hard to jump into if you're not versed in that genre. And Fusion is a little too linear comparatively, like it's a little too guiding, and it doesn't give you a good idea of like how different parts of a map in a Metroidvania will intersect to create those different exploration incentives. And Zero Mission is at least a little more traditional in that sense. And it's also pretty short. Like I think my playtime said 3.5 hours. I don't think that's true. There was some fudging going on with some save states there at the end when I was playing on my Game Boy Advance. My Game Boy Advance has save states. It's really, yeah, it's really cool. Do you have one of those, Derek, that has save states?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
It's pretty out there, man.
Yeah,
I've got a
it's,
GameCube with one too. Pretty zany.
yeah, yeah. My SP, I had to put a really big dongle on it, but man, I tell you what, it makes a big difference. Because that Ridley fight at the end was a bitch. The window on it was so tight.
Yeah, I was watching you play it. There are not many hit boxes that are so small.
Yeah, it was like it was like I felt like an athlete, like a basketball player who couldn't make a free throw, because I would just get in these grooves where I just kept going a pixel too high, and it was driving me nuts.
Well, it's like you're threading a needle, is what it looked like to me.
And then at the end, it does the traditional escape sequence. And the freaking like in Super Metroid, that's kind of like a joke. It's just like not a joke, it's a reward basically. Like you just run to the end and there you are. But in this game, when you finish the epilogue, you have this 5-minute escape, and it tail ends it with these two just motherfuckers of little space pirates. Like they're mean. They take special weapons to beat, and like by that point, like the first time I went through it, I just wasn't prepared for it. And this totally destroyed me, and I had to redo the boss fight and everything. So, yeah, I mean, that game is really nice and easy until you get to the end, and then it just kind of punches you in the face. But hey, I really liked it. And I thought the epilogue sequence, which is a lot like what Dread looks like it'll be, a lot of sneaking around and hiding in special spots to avoid detection, that part was great. I'm so excited for Dread after playing that. Zero Mission, I say, is pretty solid. So if you have a hacked Game Boy, hop in there.
Yeah, I plan on going through the 2D Metroids before Dread, so I can join in the hype.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna play the Metroid 2 remake that was on 3DS. I'm definitely gonna play that on 3DS.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna stream it on Twitch. I have a streaming setup just for my 3DS.
Okay.
Big long cable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to hop in and watch me take down 40 Metroids, commit mass genocide against these little buggers, hop on Twitch.
Sure enough.
Yeah. So last thing I played, like you all, I kind of bounced around a bunch, and a lot of Game Pass stuff, and I was just not. There's a lot of stuff I liked, but I just wasn't in the mood. Like I came back from a trip, and I just haven't felt like getting really into Mass Effect 2 yet. I started it, and I was having a good time, but summer is really not a good time for me on games like that, because I've been going on lots of trips and have family in town, and it's hard to make time for that game when I feel like you need like a solid hour or two to even play that for a little bit. So haven't played Mass Effect 2, and then I tried Psychonauts and I liked it, but I just wasn't really in the mood for it at the time. So then I ended up bouncing around all the way to a little indie game that has been on my list for a while, called Moonlighter, which I think is like 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Rogue, but it's weird. It's not.
It's the Racketeer clone.
Yes, I was gonna say. Obviously, Derek would know that there's an anime game where you're like the whole thing is that you're a merchant, and
Yes.
this is that game. So the shtick is that you're in this town, and by daytime you are a merchant, and by nighttime you are a dungeon crawler. And so you go to the dungeon to collect things, and then you sell those things at the store, and then by selling those things you're able to upgrade your town and upgrade your equipment such that your dungeon exploring becomes easier. It's a very, very light roguelike, like very light compared to most of them, because the only thing that's really random is the dungeon every time the layout changes, but a lot of times you're getting the exact same rooms just in a different order. The bosses are the same, so you always really know what to prepare for. I haven't had any runs where I was caught off guard by something really stupid that messed me up. So it makes the rogue elements, I think, compared to something like, let's say, Binding of Isaac, very minor. Like, it really does feel like each run I am building towards something, and each run I do a little bit better, and I'm not just praying to any RNG gods. I know what I'm doing. It's like a normal ass video game. I'm not very far. It seems like it's kind of short. Like there's 5 dungeons, and I'm pretty much at the end of the first dungeon. It's interesting because unlike most rogues where like every run you're trying to get as far as you can, in this game most of your runs you're just trying to acquire goods to sell them because you kind of know at the start you don't really have the equipment you need to go as far as you want. And so I'm at the point now where I feel like I've upgraded myself enough that I can start making real runs. I think I've done like 2 or 3 runs at the boss of the first dungeon, and I got to the boss the other day and got spanked, but it's really quick to go back and get to that far. I just have to make sure I buy potions and stuff. I just have to prepare. It's been a light kind of podcast game, and I don't know that I'll stick with it all the way, but I mean, for something that it was on Game Pass and otherwise it's still pretty cheap. I think it's pretty fun, and it's unique. There's not a lot of, other than Racketeer, there's not a lot of games where you play as a shopkeep and use that as your mechanic for upgrading.
Yeah, I've wanted to play this for a little while. I've never really made the jump. If you want to play a good game, Racketeer is a fantastic little game. It's always on sale, it feels like. It's certainly on sale right now during the Steam sale. But if it's anything like that, it's fun, so I want to try it.
Yeah, it's got, like, as far as the action goes, it's a little more, it's like Zelda-ish, but a little more deliberate. I think my main problem with the game is that I wouldn't say that either element is especially strong. Like, I don't think, like, the combat is amazing, especially compared to some other rogues I've played lately, like Hades or Dead Cells. And I don't think the shopkeeping is, like, amazing, but it's one of those better than the sum of its parts. Like, it feels good, and it's kind of like Stardew Valley for me, where it was, when I'd finish a day in the game, I'd be like, I got a few more minutes. I can keep listening to this podcast and play another run or two. And I really like, I actually, the first time I've ever done the Xbox Play Anywhere stuff, which is where you can play it on your Xbox, you can play it on your PC, and damn, that is so seamless. And it's probably not amazing, because I mean, I know the cloud is prevalent elsewhere, but like on the Switch, it's such a pain when you go between switches to transfer your cloud data. But on this, it was like I had Moonlighter in suspend mode upstairs on the Xbox, and then I installed it on the PC downstairs, and the PC, even though it was in suspend, it saw the save file, uploaded it, and I was able to play. Then when I went back to the Xbox, which still had it suspended, it said, "Hey, there's a newer save file. We're gonna close out your suspended application and then restart it so that your progress from your PC carries over." And it was like nothing. It was like I was playing on the same device, which I thought was great. I liked that because I liked playing on the PC. I thought the mouse was a solid way to play that.
Now, for those of you at home, you did not mishear. Cheston does indeed have 2 switches. One for being on the
mentioned this
TV.
before.
One that's portable only.
Yeah, but one's my wife's.
How many we use again?
Oh, it's crazy. We use a different story. That was a mistake. But I've explained this before. We have 2 Switches because when Animal Crossing came out, my wife wouldn't let me play my Switch. She's always playing Animal Crossing.
Mommy, she won't let me get on the Switch.
That's
Buy
right.
me a new one. No, I just find it amusing that you have 2.
Yeah, the Switch Lite's great. I recommend it.
If I were to do it over again, I probably would get a Switch Lite. But
I don't know. I think you'd hate it because the buttons are so small.
oh, I don't like small buttons.
It's a system for people with small hands like myself.
Oh, well, as a big-handed boy,
I think the Switch Pro, if it ever comes out and or exists will be have bigger buttons to your liking. Yeah.
If it exists, I like that little touch.
Listen. You always hedge your bets with Nintendo. I think it exists, but I ain't never gonna say anything for certain.
I certainly
It's
had
like
my bet
Bayonetta
with
3,
leakers.
if it exists.
I'm leaning towards
Metroid
it
Prime
doesn't.
4, if it exists.
You mentioned some Nintendo things, and I think it's a fair point to go on to our next bit where we wrap up our E3 dialogues and chat about the conferences and whatnot. So before we get started, we played a little game when we made our predictions, and I have our scores if you're all curious about that.
I am.
In last place is Derek with a score of negative 90.
Nice.
Did not do so good. Second place, Cheston with a score of negative
Ooh.
25.
Nice.
Did okay. And the winner, Setzer, with a score of 0.
Did you count his Mario prediction?
I did count his Mario prediction.
Oh,
His
that's
prediction of Mario will be there is as valid as my prediction of Persona 3 Fez Steam will release immediately following the PC Game Show. And so, Mario was there.
well.
Zelda
okay.
was there.
Breath of the
Metroid
Wild 2
was there.
was teased. There was slightly more material. He was absolutely right about that. Avengers Desperation, what they showed, I would call desperation. Ubisoft conference sucks, absolutely.
Oh, that's just a given. That's not a prediction.
PC Game Show equals hardware manufacturer dick sucking. That was there, absolutely. So,
Oh, yes.
Halo Infinite, much improved. I think it was. So there was it was a good time to be a Setzer.
Did you give me halvesies for Rayman or Mario Rabbids 2?
I gave you half these for you had a Metroid Prime 4, Metroid Prime Trilogy, and
Yes,
2D
so I got
Metroid
half on
prediction.
that.
Got
Yeah,
half on that. Marvel everywhere. You got full credit because it was everywhere.
Yeah. It was all over Square.
Yep.
20 minutes.
Sure. Hey, we'll talk about that. Mario Odyssey has been working on something. You did not get any credit for that.
Oh, God, that killed me.
So everyone did okay except for me. So I was too pie in the sky.
Yeah, well, your predictions were the most fun.
Well, of course. I try to have fun.
Yeah.
But boy,
Like
was
your
I
old wrestling
wrong.
predictions back in the day.
Yeah, I know.
Like, the show we wanted to happen, like, if you actually happened, like, everybody would be happy. Just never works out.
Just never goes that way. So what I figure we'll do is we'll, I don't know, I'll just mention a conference and we'll say any thoughts we have about it. And, if you want to rate it, you can. If not, that's okay too. So let's start with Microsoft. I personally felt their conference was just okay. They got a lot of praise online, but I was like, most of the things had no gameplay. The thing they closed their show with, like one of 85,000 Left 4 Dead sort of games. I thought that looked kind of weak, and it had Marvel quips in it, so I wasn't really interested in that. And it was Arcane too, so I was like, oh.
I was
felt
wondering
so bad
if
for
Setzer was
Setzer.
okay after that.
I was so sad to see that.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw them closing with Arcane, I was like, wow, Setzer must be so excited. And then I saw the game trailer, and I said, well, this really isn't doing anything for me. Maybe it'll be good in the end, but this is not what I pictured.
No, it looks like shit.
Yeah, I felt bad because this is like a quippy game. It's like Left 4 Dead wannabe. It just doesn't look like a. It looks like the Bethesda sank their tendrils in.
Well, I mean, Arcane's been with Bethesda for a long time.
Well, I know. Well, so
yeah.
maybe Microsoft did it. I don't know.
Tendrils, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get the feeling this is one of those games where it's like one guy at the studio is super passionate about this idea, and he ropes in some more people, and then eventually what you get just looks really boring and generic. But it like Evolve, right? Like Evolve. Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm sure it'll be fine with your friends, but really, what game isn't?
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought the whole show was very Microsoft. Like, they've always, like, ever since the Connect days ended, the Connect days are awful. Ever since then, their conferences have always been, alright, they've been good enough. They haven't been embarrassing, but they never have, like, the announcement that gets people pumped. Like, there was nothing at that show where I was like, oh, hell yeah. There was a lot of, like, yeah, I'll play that. Like, 12 Minutes is this indie game they've been showing for years, where it's like you're replaying this 12-minute time loop, Groundhog Day style. And I'm all in for that, but, like, I'm not, like, pumping my fist. I'm going to be like, yeah, I'll play that because it's going to be on Game Pass. Or, oh, Hades is coming to Game Pass? Oh, that's cool. I've played it before, but I'll play it again on another system. get achievements, I guess.
One of the 85 Stalker games they revealed looked cool, like
Stalker
Chrome
2?
Heart or something.
Oh,
I didn't
Atomic
care
Heart?
for that.
Well, I just
Atomic
thought
Heart,
maybe I
yeah.
just liked the song. I don't know.
Well, the problem with it is, like you said, there was a lot of stuff where it's like, I don't really know what this game is. Like, they showed Atomic Heart, and maybe that's cool, but I don't know what it is. It's like
I don't know either, but
it's a shooter of
it's a
some sort.
Fallout ripoff.
Oh, yeah.
That's
You know.
what I read it as.
And the big headliner, Starfield, I mean, they didn't even really show anything.
Starfield, they showed nothing. They might as well have not shown it. It was
I
just
know-
like
I will
they didn't
say-
show nothing. They showed a ladder, and then Todd immediately had to say, "Don't read too much into that ladder now. We don't have ladder tech 20 years later."
it's too
I-
hard.
I was glad that they were doing that kind of space, because I was worried they were going to do a Mass Effect style fantasy science fiction game, which they might still do. Apparently
It's
this game is like
Bethesda.
apparently this is like Han Solo is what they said. It's like a Han Solo simulator, which is not what I read from it at all, but
No.
Spoiler alert, what's going to be is Fallout in space. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
duh. Or
they've
Skyrim in
already
space.
got that niche with Outer World, right?
yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, it will be less funny than Outer World. So
the funny well, I did like that trailer. It was very tongue in cheek.
I was just really surprised that it was there at all. I felt like that was really soon.
Didn't they just release DLC for the first game like last month?
That game could really benefit from a sequel, because I felt like they had a lot of solid ideas, but also very rough around the edges. So
I liked Outer Worlds pretty well.
I think a sequel. Oh, I know, but I mean, I still think it's in typical Xbox 360, PS3 era fashion. It was a first game that had a lot of cool ideas, but at the same time had a lot of rough edges that, if they were
So an
polished
Obsidian
off,
game.
could be
yeah,
pretty good.
much.
Yes. No hope for being polished, huh?
You need Papa Bethesda to step in and tell them how to do it right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious because I felt like a lot of the talk around Halo was very positive. But I'm not a Halo guy, so I really don't care. So I was curious how Setzer felt about the Halo presence at Microsoft.
Well, we're gonna do the compliment sandwich, okay? What they showed of the multiplayer, I'm cautiously optimistic about, because it looks like a return to what I like about Halo multiplayer, which is a really chaotic sandbox, right?
Mhm.
And just kind of like just going wild and having fun, right? That seems to be their focus this time around, instead of like esports bullshit, right?
Mhm.
Okay, now the bad part. They didn't show. They showed like a little 30-second cutscene from the single player, whatever. This game's been in development for how many years, and still nobody knows what the single player structure is? Can we have a reveal on that? How many minutes for Fuck Off 76? Talking about stupid crap nobody cares about on that game? Could we have just streamed some Halo Infinite single player footage in that slot?
No.
I guess not. So there's still no telling what the single player in this game is like on like a grander scale. Like, yeah, sure, you'll move around and you'll shoot guns. I'm sure of that. But what is this open world attitude they're taking? Right?
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I'm not really into multiplayer almost anything, despite having played Overwatch earlier. Overwatch is more my style than Halo's multiplayer, but I was waiting to see anything single player, because that's what I actually will go for, and I don't know, it makes me wonder if they're of the mind that they need to just put their nose to the grindstone and not worry about preparing some kind of frilly vertical slice, because last time they came out it was so bad and everybody made fun of them.
To be pessimistic, I think it's probably still like kind of shitty, and they just don't want to show it off because they don't want to detract the hype from the multiplayer they showed.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's my interpretation as well. I mean, you're talking about making a vertical slice. The game comes out.
Yes,
in
I'm
6
aware. I
months.
know. Yeah, I agree.
You know, if we're still talking about vertical slices at this point, I mean, the game's been in development for like 6 years, and it's been pushed back, and it comes
Yeah.
out in 6 months. We should be past the point of the vertical slice, and we should be ready to say, like, here's 20 minutes of Master Chief, Captain King running around the ring having some fun, right? And the fact that we're not at that stage is like,
It's worrying.
you know, it's making me yank my collar here a little bit. But the other good part, the like ancillary features of the multiplayer that they showed off, like a lot of training features, the customization for your guy, your little guy, those looked really cool. The battle pass, I know that's getting a lot of hype. I'm
Oh boy.
undecided on that because
Battle
I don't
pass.
like yeah.
Don't like battle
Yeah,
passes.
I don't like the battle pass in general, so we'll see if they succeed in making one that's tolerable. But it's certainly better than, say, Destiny 2's battle pass. So they've got that.
Well, I guess the good thing is, like, if the single player is a mess, you don't actually have to buy it because I'm pretty sure the multiplayer is free to play. So,
It is.
so you can just avoid that if it sounds like a mess,
Mm-hmm.
which it might be. So,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, we will see. Maybe. I mean, they said didn't they just say winter? They didn't even give a date. So, who knows?
Yeah, I think it was like holiday 2021.
we got a date for Starfield in 2022.
Well, that's just because
but
they want their crazy number thing.
they wanted the
11
Oblivion
was it
date.
11/11/22?
Or they wanted the Skyrim date.
Yeah.
But it's not 11/11/11, so it's not
No,
the same.
it's. I don't know if I'd want that date because to me that's like, oh damn, you're right. It did take you 11 years to do like. I mean, they did do Fallout 4, but come on now.
Well, why don't they release it on the 22nd month? That would make more sense.
Yeah. You know what? That's a good point. On the 22nd month of the 22nd year.
They're really making a blunder of things over there. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the one everyone was talking about was Forza Horizon, and when I was watching it, I was like, oh boy, another car game. And
Yeah, it's like this time you get to drive in Mexico.
yeah, it's like, I guess it
Woohoo,
looks pretty, but when I'm
Yeah,
playing a
it looks
racing
pretty.
game, I can't really look at the backgrounds, so...
I will play it. That's about it.
I mean, I might
it's on
play
Game
it.
Pass, so I will play it.
But, like, everyone's
And-
talking like it's, like, the game of the show. I'm like, yeah, it looks like a car game to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think
mean,
it
you can
showed. I think it
Turn the
showed
wheel
well.
left and right in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You mean
Look
the
at that
cars look
innovation.
photorealistic? Whoa!
Well,
Did they
you
did
know,
they bring a car on stage for this one?
They did
this
not.
year?
I
No.
wish.
I feel like cars have been photorealistic in video games since like Gran Turismo 3. Like I cannot get
Well,
it up for car games
Well,
anymore.
I'm gonna look up a picture of Gran Turismo 3.
I remember at the time thinking it looked like that. I'm sure it's aged, but
Oh yeah. Well, I mean they looked pretty. These pictures look all right. To be
yeah.
honest.
So exactly. So like it's hard for me to get like, oh boy.
Yeah, no, I know. I get it. I mean, I think that's one of those series that the Horizon is a little more arcadey, and a lot of people are really into. I know a guy who gives no crap about cars, but has continued to play Horizon 4 forever and ever and ever. So I'm sure that a lot of the hype is because there's people who have been in it and they're just excited for another big desert sandbox to drive around in. But I'll play it. That's about my extent of it, though.
I think we have covered Microsoft pretty well.
Psychonauts 2 looked about like what it should, so that's good.
Yeah, it
a
looked like a
little
PS2
ugly.
game.
A little ugly
Yep.
around the edges, but the style of that game was always kind of ugly. So
When
alright.
when I looked at my wife when it was on, I was like, "This looks like a PS2 game. Like does not look like a game that's been in development for a decade." I'm sure it'll be fine. It's just I think it was a waste of money, but we'll see.
It is what it is. It's like ukulele, right? What ukulele should have been. Just a nice old school throwback at this point.
Sure. And hey, I like that era of games.
I
PS2
don't
is
think-
where it's at.
I don't think anybody's expecting it to like change the world.
I hope not.
Just be fun.
Ugly was what I took away from it, but it should be fine. But yeah, I think we've covered Microsoft pretty well. I think I would personally give that conference like a C if I had to rate it on a letter scale. It was average.
Just to be different, I'll use a
Yeah.
5-star scale and say a 3. It's just 3 stars.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, he agrees with me. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going with a solid C on that.
Next, I don't know if this was actually next, but whatever. Square. They kind of told you what was there, but they're like also they said like, oh, there's stuff we didn't announce that'll be there too. So they let off with like 86 minutes of Guardians of the Galaxy. I think through the first 5 minutes, I said this game looks a lot better than I thought it would. And then as it kept going on, I was like, okay, I get it, okay. And the more dialogue I got, the less I wanted to play it. So I don't know what you want from me, but don't show games for 30 minutes during these things.
How did Square get these coveted Marvel licenses?
I don't know. Then they showed like a bunch of Avengers DLC, which I tuned out. Black Panther's coming, which I don't know if I touched on this last time, but the fact that it wasn't in the base game is really strange. I mean, like, it's one of your biggest franchises. So.
Yeah, and Spider-Man's
they
only on
had
the
so many
PS4.
True,
A lot
got to
of
get
weird
Hawkeye
choices.
in.
Yeah, a lot of weird choices with that game.
I mean, they didn't even put Spider-Man in at launch, right? So,
Well, yeah,
No.
he's a PlayStation
He's still-
exclusive.
I don't think he's on yet. I think he still hasn't come out, but I might be wrong about that.
So I was a big bunch of who gives a shit.
Yep.
Then they showed Babylon's Fall. It looked like garbage.
Yeah. Yep. That looked like crap.
I was like frustrated. Like, you're wasting your time with this. This is a service game. It looks
Must
like
be
shit.
Platinum's. Must be the same team on Platinum that did Korra and the
Yeah.
Turtles.
I hope so, because like this is just a waste. And then they showed the Chaos Final Fantasy game. I don't remember the actual title, so I just call it Chaos.
Stranger of Paradise.
Final Fantasy Origins, Stranger of Paradise.
Stranger of Paradise sounds like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game, you know. I thought it looked weak when I saw the trailer, but I played it and I actually really enjoyed it. So as a result, I ended up. I was like, oh, maybe the conference wasn't so bad because I had played the demo. I liked this game. So what do you want from me?
That art style is disgusting.
It looks better in motion. I don't know.
But so the thing is that it's like when they say Final Fantasy Origin, I'm picturing like Final Fantasy 1 and what that would look like in a 3D space, and this is not what I picture. A bunch of J. Crew models running around, swinging giant-ass blades.
It also looks like a PS3 game.
There's just something about it
technically.
that I find charming. I don't know, like the main
I'm glad you
character is like
do.
such a an edgelord.
I was
can't-
worried about you after this conference because they also did the pixel remasters that are only on phone.
Yeah,
And I
and
thought-
they look shitty too. By the way,
What is
Why?
wrong with
What's wrong with
Square?
them?
well, they're not like the SNES ones. They're like a weird go between like the shitty mobile ports from back in the day and the SNES ones. So and
Why?
I don't know.
And they're not putting it on anything, but
They're not
the
on
PC
consoles.
and
They're on PC
mobile.
and mobile, which you can already play these games on. So it's just like a
It's
a
like
big
a
waste of
real
time.
confusing. It's like I didn't watch this one. I just like read about it and watched trailers afterwards. But I kind of felt like Sega and Square had this weird Freaky Friday thing, because now Square is acting a lot like Sega, where I am genuinely concerned that nobody at Square actually knows what they're doing.
Yoshi P
You
does.
can play the Saga games on Switch. Nobody likes Saga.
Yeah, as Setzer said, you got Yoshi P at least.
Someone at the top at Square must have like a real like hatred for Saga, because that's not Saga, hatred for the Final Fantasy games. Because the only way I can rationalize the fact that the Mana games and the Saga games are available like everywhere and are getting remastered and getting all this glory treatment, and Final Fantasy VI, one of the greatest games ever made according to many people, is treated like it's, I don't know, Sonic Labyrinth.
I see. My thinking is maybe they look at it like the Disney Vault,
Oh yeah, maybe.
where
It's
like
been in
we
the
have
vault
to
for a long
be-
time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what I mean. Where it's just the philosophy of like we have to be super stingy with the precious gold.
Yeah, I don't want to devalue the IP, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that would be the only good reason to keep Chrono Trigger off of modern hardware, so I guess whatever.
This show sucked. The Dragon Quest show that was like a week before, that was just like a throwaway
better.
thing, was way better. I would give an F minus. I think at the time I thought it was worse than or at least as bad as Nintendo 2008. Upon reflection, I don't think so because there weren't charts, but it was pretty damn close. It was terrible.
The difference is that in Nintendo 2008, there was nothing that you would want to play. At the very least, there are games that I thought looked like, I don't know, I'm probably not going to play Guardians of the Galaxy because the voice acting grated on me. But I looked at it and said, yeah, that's a game. Like, if I had to play it, I could probably play it.
That's exactly what I was thinking because I came out of this thinking you know what, I'm at least going to play JoJo's Bizarre Fantasy game. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So there's one thing.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, so I have to abstain from official ranking, but just based on what was there, probably a 1 out of 5 star for me.
It wasn't good. And then the PC show was after that. That was bad also, but
Oh yeah.
but it was better than Square. I remember commenting to my wife as shitty as this PC show is, it runs laps around Square because there was At least like it was entertaining, I guess, and they moved around. They were quick to jump from thing to thing, and they didn't spend 30 minutes on a game. I mean, they may have spent 30 minutes total on Mech Assault 5, but it was at least spread out.
Warrior 5.
But yeah, I mean, it was shitty. There's not much to talk about there, unless you like
No.
really poorly acted skits
Lots of really forgettable indie games that,
that people were acting like were the next coming. Like, God,
yeah.
I'm tired of that shit.
Every game has that one person.
Well, I commented to Cheston just randomly, like during the week, like there was after Jeff Keighley's little here's Death Stranding collect like the director's cut. They had like this indie game show, and all these like blue check marks on Twitter were talking about how amazing every game looks. Like, come on, guys, come on.
A lot of games look amazing in concept. I always feel like press people are way too sold on trailers.
Well, they're paid to show. That's
They
their
want
job.
they want to show like they're cool and like they respect devs, so every indie game is a hit until it sucks. I thought there was a couple okay looking things, but nothing that blew my mind. I'll just put it that way. And so after PC, there was a future game show which I remember nothing about. I kind of tuned it out. Let's see, Ubisoft don't give a shit, but Setzer watched a couple things. So what do you know?
They're making a Tom Clancy's Aliens game.
Okay.
That looked so boring. Like, I was watching that trailer and just thinking, like, Rainbow Six Siege, I played a handful of matches of that game with a buddy of mine. And in my first match, one of my teammates resorted to screaming at the top of his lungs in frustration
Fun.
because he was so upset that I was the last guy standing. So, is this audience really going to, like, buy into, like, John Carpenter's The Thing / James Cameron's Aliens mashup? I
Probably
really don't see it. I really don't see the Rainbow Six audience going for anything where you cannot be a massive asshole in a competitive environment, right? The other thing I remember from Ubisoft was the Avatar game.
Why?
And,
Why?
Yeah, as I commented to
Disney really thinks they've got a winner on their hands.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
as I commented to Derek at the time, I believe, kids who were wearing diapers when the movie came out will now have their learner's permit to like go and buy the game at GameStop.
What speaks ill of the Avatar license to me is that, like, when you first said this game was coming, I had to clarify, like, you're talking about the movie and not, like, the Airbender, right?
These movies are gonna be it's gonna be a flop, isn't it? This whole thing.
I don't know.
For as much money as the original Avatar made, like, the fact that, like, the last Airbender, I think more people, like, when you say Avatar, they think of that. That's a bad sign, I think.
I have never heard a single person say out loud, "I like Avatar."
I have. My friend
Okay.
Jeff.
Oh, I mean,
Other than
remember back
without
in
the
the day.
disclaimer that I liked it in 3D.
Okay.
I mean, remember back in the day when people were like killing themselves because they wanted to be reincarnated as Navis?
I do. Well, luckily they're all dead, so those
I don't
people.
remember that. No.
No one's left to
Read it
get hyped
out.
for Avatar.
They're not here to get hyped for Avatar 2.
Yeah, so.
Well, nothing sounds less fun than an Avatar-based game.
Yeah,
Not the
what
Airbender
really
character.
stuck out to me was it's a pre-rendered cinematic trailer. You know, it's like it's in engine ostensibly, but it tells you nothing about the gameplay, right?
Hmm.
And all they've said is that it's first person and you play as a Navi. And the number of people being like, "Oh my god, this game's gonna be incredible! It's Cyberpunk all over again." You know, like you already see people speculating about like features that they're gonna have in this game when they've said literally nothing about it.
I mean, first of all, it's an Ubisoft game. Reel back those expectations.
Is this the place to mention that it's really funny how the initial Far Cry 6 trailers were like super serious, but then at the Microsoft show they had like this wacky 5-minute goof reel of hijinks and set to like goofy music and everything?
Well, that sounds like Far Cry to me.
I know. I just thought it's just continues to be hilarious every time.
I'm saying it's hilarious that people still fall for it. So that was your takeaways from Ubisoft.
Yeah, yeah.
Cheston, did you have anything to say about Mario and Rabbids?
It looked like the first game, which I like from what I've played so far. I wish they would have taken that engine and that idea and done different characters besides the Rabbids, because I think the Rabbids are like a one-trick thing. I can't picture what they would do now. Like, because they've already done it. They've done Mario meets the Rabbids and hijinks ensue. It would have been way cooler if it was like, oh, now Mario meets, I don't know,
Tom
Pig
Clancy.
from Beyond Good and Evil. And they do pig shit. I don't know. Like, that would be better
They
in
roll
my
around
book.
in the mud.
Yeah, that'd be way better. I haven't finished the first game. I have a hard time imagining that when I finish it, I'll be like, yeah, I want a whole nother adventure of these characters going at it, but I don't know. Maybe.
I guess we'll move off Ubisoft to the conference that no one cares about.
Yep.
To,
0 stars, perennial. Every
perennial.
time.
F minus. Didn't see it. F minus.
Yeah. Big old middle finger to you, Ubisoft.
So next, I would say is Capcom, which I don't know why you even bothered having a conference. To be honest, shows like you don't have to have a conference. If you don't have stuff to show, don't show
Well,
anything.
they've never had one before.
So yes, they never had one before, but like having one this year was a mystery. So they showed Monster Hunter Rise DLC, or not DLC, their update path, and Monster Hunter Stories 2, a game that's already been announced, and was again showed off during Nintendo. So again, they don't need to show that. And then they also showed off Ace Attorney Investigations, which looks great. I think it was probably my second favorite overall game that I saw at the show, but it's a game that has been announced for a long time. Like, we've known it's coming.
Isn't this the one that's already out, like in Japan, and has been out forever?
This is a remaster. These are remakes of 3DS games, and I think
well, this isn't what I thought it was, is it?
Yeah.
This is not Great Ace Attorney?
I don't know the Japanese names, but the second one was, I think, released in 2017, and they're remakes of 2 games. So, but I mean, I'm looking forward to it. But this is not new information. And then they're like, "All right, this is it. We're talking about esports now." And
Ooh.
they spent 15 minutes talking about esports after those 3 games, and that was it.
Kill me.
And
Alright.
don't show a conference if you don't have anything to show. It's like the stuff they showed could have just been at the Nintendo Direct. So F minus. Next is the Nintendo Direct. I thought this was hands down the best thing that's shown because they actually showed things I care about, and they showed a lot of gameplay, even if it was ugly. In the case of Tony Hawk for Switch and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot for Switch, 2 of perhaps the ugliest games I've ever seen. But and it's amazing that they can make Kakarot look ugly, because I think I'm playing it right now. It looks amazing, but good God. Otherwise, like, they showed Metroid Dread, which, as Cheston pointed out earlier, looks great. Going for like a more stealthy style.
Yeah, it does.
I legitimately got excited when they showed Advance Wars. I almost jumped off my couch. I was like, oh my God, another Advance Wars. They mentioned like the Red Star Army, and I immediately knew what was going on, so I was excited. There was just a lot of stuff I was into.
Yeah, I was driving home. I was on a cross-country road trip, and I was driving, and I had this running where I could listen to it. Really couldn't watch it, and I feel bad because I just was every announcement. I try not to be a big fanboy about these things, but every announcement I was like, oh shit. Like when they showed Mario Party, and I was like, Mario Party, alright. And I was like, oh wait, it's a best of the 64 games? Like, oh shit. And then they said Metroid Dread, and I was like, man, shit. And then they kept going with WarioWare and Advance Wars. There's just a lot of... It was like an E3 presentation made for me.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it too.
It was a lot of the series that I really care about. I know a lot of people probably watched and were upset that there wasn't more Zelda or more Mario, but they got Metroid in there, they got WarioWare in there, they got Mario Party All-Stars in there. Like, I was super pleased, and honestly, if they just had Mario Party Metroid, I probably would have just been fine with it, but I felt like they had a lot of other little things in there, like the Monkey Ball remasters, which I will not play on the Switch, but I think will be fun nonetheless. Like, a lot of things that I looked at and said, yeah, I am going to play this. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, Monkey Ball Remaster. I was very excited because
Yeah.
for whatever dumb reason, they released Banana Blitz HD in 2019, like the Monkey Ball no one likes, and I was like, why? Why are they doing this?
Yeah.
And they came back around. So monkeys and balls together again.
You always know that a Nintendo presentation is good when Golden Sun fans are like even chippier than usual. I just felt like they must have been watching this going, man, all these franchises that have been in the gutter with us for all these years, we've been in the trenches for years with Advance Wars fans, and they're getting a shout out? Like, oh.
Well, I look down at Golden Sun fans
Well,
with scorn.
absolutely. Yeah, they deserve
I
their
spit
place
on
in the
them.
trenches. Yes, they can live in the trenches with Earthbound fans.
Wait a minute. Well, but
Setzer, you hate Nintendo, so anything get your goat here?
I didn't watch it. I saw the Metroid Dread trailer. I thought it looked kind of goofy, but
Did you play Fusion way back?
Yeah, when I was a little kid.
Okay. All right. Kind of had some Fusion vibes too.
Yeah, Metroid Prime 1 and Metroid Fusion are the only Metroid games I've ever played.
those are good ones.
So-
Yeah,
So-
those are great games.
No, Metroid Prime Hunters on the DS.
Nope.
I played that
Ooh.
I take it back. Not a good
Oh
one.
boy,
Not a good
I
one.
oh.
No
No
wonder
wonder
you
you
don't
hate
like
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
I would too.
It's like, yeah, I've only played Yoshi's New Island,
Uh,
Pilot Wing
Kazoo game.
64.
I thought the robot kind of reminded me of like the Turn X Gundam, kind of General Grievous, kind of
oh, a little
Trek,
bit, yeah.
J.J. Abrams track thing.
Yeah, the Emmy
Um,
robot that chases Samus.
I thought that's kind of a weird gimmick for a game. Like they show like she turns yellow or something, and it just like runs past her at one point. I'm like, okay, well,
She's a
Yeah,
yellow belly.
I think that was her hiding. I think that was the game indicating
Oh.
that she was in hiding.
I was a little disappointed with the Zelda stuff they showed because
Yeah.
Skyward Sword looks just like Skyward Sword again, like no changes
Yeah.
at all.
Well, there's been some articles come out, and they have said that they used the phrase quality of life improvements, but it was very non-committal. I did see something about streamlining tutorial,
That would be
so
great.
maybe.
But like with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on the Wii U, they did
Oh,
have
yes.
some changes that they put out there. So the only big change is like no motion controls if you choose not to use them. So
Well, Skyward Sword is so fundamentally flawed. I think the fixes are a little more complicated. Wind Waker just
agree.
needed like a little touch-up, so I think some of the things that I would say are bad about Skyward Sword, I think if they changed it, it would border on like just making a different game altogether.
Well, I do know that they were talking about quality of life improvements brought via Amiibo, which I am not a fan of.
Yes,
So,
Oh my
they
God.
showed the fast travel in a separate video,
So,
and that is some
I find that
BS.
I find that abhorrent.
You can use it to go right to the sky, and then you can use it to go right back to where you were, which, God, that would save so much time.
It would save time, and I do not like that being locked to Amiibo.
No, that's terrible.
If I want, I could just emulate your game and get this. So I hope they
No.
show. I hope there's something to this quality of life stuff you heard
I
about.
thought the Game & Watch thing was a little disappointing, that it was, like, they basically just rolled out the thing they did for Mario, but with a lot less pomp and circumstance. I mean, it's a way better deal because Link's Awakening's on there, and that game is amazing, but...
Well, but you can play Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Link's Awakening in
Yeah,
85
right.
billion different places at this point.
That's a collector piece, and that's whatever. But I mean,
Yeah.
if that's, I did not I can't say that I expected the same treatment as Mario got, because I mean they had all kinds of projects around it. But when they said this is all we have, I was like, oh wow, that's kind of rough.
And I think people gobble up shit way too readily because people are talking about how great Skyward Sword 2 looks. Not Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild 2 looks. And I'm like, they
hard
showed
to say.
a Link falling through the
Yeah.
air,
It-
and they showed him being ooze.
Yeah, it
And
looks
that's
like
it.
Skyward Sword, so I guess that's
You
or
mean
not
it looks
Skyward
like Breath of
Sword.
the
God.
Wild? We
Oh
messed it up
God, it
twice.
does not look like Skyward Sword. No, it looks like Breath of the Wild, which is good. So
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's impossible to say like whether it looks great or not.
no, I
It's-
agree. I would say that like if I had to be objective about this conference, like personally, 5-star conference for me because I mean I know I said personally because I will buy probably 4 or 5 of these games outright. Like, and that's usually for an E3 show. I'll play a lot of things from the Xbox conference, but that's just because I have a Game Pass subscription, so whatever. But objectively speaking, a lot of the big things that people would want to see, like Metroid Prime 4, nothing. Bayonetta 3 perennial no-show. Breath of the Wild 2 might as well not have even been there. The Donkey Kong rumor didn't amount to anything. There was no Switch Pro. Like, a lot of those big things that I think general audiences would have been looking for were not there. So, objectively, I'd say more like a 4-star, maybe 3.5 star. Personally, 5 stars for Mario Party on its own, but that's just me.
For me, I don't give a shit about what anyone else thinks. So I liked everything. I think it was a 5-star conference. I came out very satisfied. All it took for me was the Mario Party game, because they released one on 3DS that was like, yeah, we're doing best 100 minigames ever, but no boards. Like, this sucks, and it's on 3DS. What bullshit.
I felt so embarrassed because they did a treehouse right after playing that game, and I listened to that while I drove, and I know. And one of the people said, if you remember Peach's birthday cake, and I was like, I do.
What do I?
I do. And they were like, well, you landed on that space, that means you get to plant a piranha. I was like, hell yeah, you do. You better not land on it. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, but like all it took was like Mario Party and Metroid Dread and Advance Wars. Like, that's all I needed, and that was enough for me. So I love the conference. Objectively, I kind of agree with you, Cheston. Like, it's like it's a B. But I left very satisfied. So
it was
I liked it. So
the most satisfied I've been by a Nintendo conference since Smash Brothers.
I also have gotten a sick aversion to looking online at idiot Smash Brothers fans during reveals. Like, objectively speaking, Kazuya and Tekken is like a far bigger franchise than half the Nintendo shit that's in Smash Brothers. But wouldn't know it from looking around online.
Well, I mean, I think at this point it's probably a good thing that they're wrapping up, because I don't think you can announce a character that everybody's gonna be happy about.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, Nintendo fans, like, they're going out, like, I saw, like, have you ever seen, like, the iceberg memes where you're delving down into, like the more obscure things, the deeper you go?
I guess, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Like, the tip of the iceberg is, like, the most, okay. So, like, they list, like, at the bottom of the iceberg, like, the most obscure things, they have, like, Tekken listed under there, and, like, Xenosaga, and, Xenoblade and Fire Emblem, like, in the middle of it. Like, come on.
Tekken is a very big franchise. Now, I can't say I was, like, super excited about Kazuya.
Well, no, but, like...
But,
But, I mean,
whatever.
Are you telling me, like, Xenoblade is more known globally than, like, King of Fighters or Persona 5? I don't think so. But you do you, Nintendo fans.
Yeah, they moaned about Terry Bogard, so what do they know?
They know nothing.
That's right. Like Jon Snow.
Okay, well. Did you have any other thoughts outside of the stuff we mentioned, guys?
Elden Ring.
Yeah, Elden Ring did show up. It looks like a Souls game.
Yep, looks like Dark Souls 4. But Miyazaki did some interviews about it, and everything I've read so far is very good, so I'm looking forward to it.
Ever since my, like, Bloodborne and Demon Souls last year, I decided, like, I'm just going to be in on From stuff from here on out. So when I saw, like, the trailer, I was like, I'm not looking at anything. I'm just going to experience it when it comes out. So all I know is that it looks good.
I would say, overall, I know that a lot of the third-party stuff was stupid, like the Square stuff and the Capcom and Gearbox and all these other shows were, like, big wastes of time. But Nintendo was a lot of fun, and Microsoft was competent, so I was happy to have E3 back in some kind of form. It was just a nice little return to some amount of normalcy.
Well, it was very funny going online and seeing people say this is like, this is a shitty E3 or the worst one ever. I'm like, well, no, it's just as bad as every other E3.
It's just every other 3. Ubisoft was bad. Yeah, they always are.
They're always kind of mediocre to bad, but it's more like, it's just exciting to see all the news. But if we're talking practically speaking, E3 kind of always sucks.
Yes, it is almost always bad, but it's a bad that I crave and I always look forward to. So I'm happy that it's back for now.
Yes.
For now. And I think they should keep doing the demo thing. That was great. Like
Yes.
having things like I only played Tunic, but it was cool that at least there were a lot of these little games that people could go out
It
and
absolutely
try.
helps the indies.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I feel like they might be lost in the sea of AAA games. So I'm with you on that. So I think we will close it then. You can reach us on Twitter, alltodaypod, or email alltodaypodcast@gmail.com. This is Derek.
Setzer?
And Cheston.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Adios.
See ya.